I'm Lynn.
I'm Amanda.
And
this is The Pursuit of Badassery, the podcast.
We're cutting through the fluff and cracking open what it really takes to build a business and life that you actually want.
No gurus, no gatekeeping, just real talk, big action, and the badass energy you need to scale and slay.
Some episodes, it's just us.
And sometimes we bring on powerful guests with stories that'll hit home.
Either way, this is not about playing small.
It's about going all in.
Let's get after it. Hey there, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to The Pursuit of Badassery, the podcast. You know, most entrepreneurs, I believe, and I'm sure Lynn will agree with me, say they want freedom. They talk all the living long day about freedom, but when they clock in every day, they're basically clocking in like underpaid employees at their own company. You don't build a business to ask for permission to overwork yourself and still feel behind. That's not entrepreneurship in the way that Lynn and I see it. That's self-employment with a nicer title. So today we're going to call out a little bit. If your business still depends on you for everything, you're not in CEO mode. And until that shift starts, your income, your time, your impact is going to stay capped. So today we're talking CEO mode versus employee mode in your business.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you use the term clock in because that's very much an employee thing to clock in, you know, the old school. I know, I'm sure some businesses still have where you have to the old school clock in, but it goes also with like the E-Myth, which I know we talk a lot about and what we do with clients and really realizing where they're spending their time and how most founders do create a job for themselves. They're not creating a business. And, you know, that number one reason is because they can't get themselves to think about things in a strategic CEO way versus like going through the motions. Yeah, it's kind of wild to watch and see. And what's even crazier, and I know we've had this discussion several times, is even people that have been in employee mode, we'll say, versus CEO mode, we've seen uber success. Like they've made really good money and they're still like, they're exhausted. They're capping themselves. They just are miserable. And that's like the payoff, I guess, for staying in that, even if you're super successful.
Absolutely. We see this all the time in our group coaching, the Badass Amplifier. And we were just talking to one of our clients, I don't know, a week ago. And it's the things that you say sometimes that clue us into CEO mode. And I will never forget. I mean, she's talking about, working this and this and this, but I don't work on the weekends. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't work on the weekends? She's like, well, it's 9 to 5 on Monday through Friday. I'm like, that's employee mode. That is, if you still think that you need to work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and that's the only parameters that you need to work, and that having the weekends off, we're not saying like don't take weekends off. We're just saying that having the mindset that I need to work, my operating hours are 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and I can't work the weekends because that's, I didn't become an entrepreneur to work the weekends. I'm like, that right there is an indicator of employee mode. Talking about clocking in, indicator of employee mode. Having all these like task-driven, hamster wheel, reactive is a sign of employee mode. And even to the point where, and Lynn just mentioned this, like super uber successful people, but they're still doing everything themselves. They still have this control bubble around things. Their calendar is still full, but the revenue isn't showing that. And so it's like you're working harder than ever, but you're not reaping the benefits of it. And, we will speak till we're blue in the face about the difference between urgent and important, but a lot of times when you're in that employee mode, you can't make that distinction clearly. And you're going to struggle to unplug, struggle to pull the business out of your brain and put it into an SOP that you can hand off to somebody else. That's very employee mode. It's very much like you wake up in the morning and it's what needs to get done versus a CEO being like, what actually moves the business forward? What can I do to move the business forward rather than like, these are the tasks that I have to complete today?
Yeah, well, I mean, you nailed it with it's employee mode is all about the task, the activity versus CEO mode is about direction and strategy. And It's interesting. I had coffee with a mentor of mine today, and we were talking about, that how where real growth happens. And we've talked about this a lot, but also where like the decisions are made is in the messy moments, like in that uncomfortable messy moments. Messy as in uncomfortable, not necessarily like chaos. It could be chaos, but that a true CEO understands that decisions have to be made, strategies need to be implemented in order for and envisioned in order for the you not to be on the hamster wheel, where employee mode is in the everyday. It's being reactive. Sometimes it's not even clarity in what we're doing. It's just almost going through, and we are talking, there's a scale in each of them. It's not black or white, right? So, but also like just having, the lack of clarity, like no clear direction, no clear understanding. But CEO mode is definitely more about that direction versus the employees completing the tasks. And we do want to put a note here. You've heard us say this in other podcasts, that when you first start off, we know that unless you're highly funded or have a good amount of capital, or maybe you've been in business before and you have some of these skill sets already built, you probably have to do a lot of the things. You're going to have to roll up your sleeves, get messy, get into bed with it. And that's how you're going to build the business. But the sacrifices of today, if you are in CEO mode and doing it strategically in a direction, will absolutely have the payoffs tomorrow. I mean, not literally tomorrow, but in the future. So it's working yourself out of that. And we often talk about like that siloed effect, creating that business completely around oneself where you have to do all the things. And even though you're getting everything done, again, that leans into that employee mode versus that CEO mode.
Absolutely. There's a mindset shift that happens when you're really getting in CEO, because we're not shitting on solopreneurship. Like it's not saying that, oh, if you're a solopreneur and you're doing everything yourself, that you're doing it wrong. Because I started as a solopreneur. I started, bootstrapping it. Lynn started bootstrapping. So we're not saying that solopreneurship is wrong and you can't have that tendency to do things yourself. It's when you stay there. It's when you have no idea of expansion and have no will, or, sometimes it's just you don't know what you don't know. But how we see a lot of this employee mode, like why it happens, a lot of times it's just control issues disguised as high standards. Hear it all the time, like, oh, I just have higher standards. Like, no, you're just a control freak and you're trying to justify it by saying you have high standards. It's a fear of investing in support. How many of you have ever been like, I don't know if I can afford to hire somebody else? And having this, blinder on the bottom line, when ultimately, if you were truly in CEO mode, you could hire somebody to do this one task and you go into CEO mode and use that time to make triple, quadruple, 10 times as much as you would make doing that one task. And I give the example of, a real estate agent having like a bunch of pamphlets they have to put out in front of an open house. They could pay a courier to go drop off those pamphlets at the house and spend that, or they could do it themselves and spend an hour in the car and drop them off themselves. Like arguably, yeah, it's cheaper. You don't have to pay the 30, 40 bucks to drop a courier. Or you could have that hour free and you spend that hour selling a house and make $10 million. So is it worth it to you to use that hour as a CEO hour to actually do the work that's moving the needle and then pay somebody 30 bucks to do the other task? Like, yeah, you could save yourself $30, but again, that's just a fear of investing in that support, because ultimately, if you are truly in CEO mode, you can use that time to make money with your time. And so you'll be making money on top of it, not losing it. A lot of times we also see that as lacking clarity of knowing what drives the needle. We hear it all the time. People, like, they don't even know what their biggest seller is or what their biggest revenue drivers are, and they don't know the numbers behind it. And the other one that we hear all the time, and we heard it the other week in a call, is this identity attachment. Like, if I'm not doing it, then who's going to do it? Like, I have to be the one. I'm the one who does it better. I can do it faster. Like, yeah. And that's what's keeping you stuck.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to talk on that you spoke about. And there's I want to give a different angle because I agree with you, obviously. In fact, I think I nudged you to get
Yeah,
VAs and all of that. And
100%. I
like
resisted it for forever.
leveraging the time. However, one thing that I will say is you can be a solopreneur and still be a CEO mind and without employees. And like Amanda said, you can hire one-offs here and there or contractor or whatnot. But even in the very beginning, having a CEO mindset versus an employee mindset is just, I'm going to keep saying this throughout this whole podcast, is the CEO is strategic and directional. They're looking at big picture and then the everyday actions, and is it in alignment with where an employee is doing what's right in front of them. There might be a little bit of a plan, a little bit of sometimes even a little bit of a strategy, but it's more hiding in the tasks in the everyday, which will become the hamster wheel if you don't figure that out. So I do want to make that comment. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I definitely think that, you can be a solopreneur with that CEO lens. And for a while, actually, and I wish I would have looked it up. I was just literally, I heard, might have been on our favorite newsfeed, Insta, although I haven't been on social media lately, but I heard something, it might have been on YouTube. And they were talking about these two guys who, it's just the two of them. I think it's a tech company, and they like are 9 figures within a couple of years, and they never had other employees, and they leverage other things and contractors and different things. But they're an example of, they probably looked at big picture. It was just in passing that I heard it, and I definitely want to find that, but it doesn't matter. The employee is going to even hide, the employee minds are hiding behind the tasks, hiding behind what you said earlier too, the things that they know how to do, or I can do it better kind of mindset. The employees are hiding behind their craft. And even I would say the complacency. And it's funny because, we always do our research before, like kind of like data dump the talking points that we want to talk on these podcasts before we do it. And I was like, damn, like I can call myself out where I have floated into the employee mindset, even though I'm big picture, I'm visionary, like I see bigger, like typically, but that sometimes I can see myself like sliding into the employee mindset because I might be hiding in the complacency of things come easy for me. Or when I was learning to delegate, because I'm such a doer, that I didn't have SOPs written down. I mean, this was decades ago, and that was, even though I was getting it done, that was very much an employee mindset, like just allowing myself to figure it out without documenting and being able to have those SOPs, those things that I can then turn over to somebody else. But yeah, I think also, strategic is with the CEO mode is, and you said this, but I definitely want to reiterate, is like they're always looking at, maybe not always acting on, but always looking at what's going to move the needle. How are we going to move the needle? That could be more income, that could be more profitability, that could be, cleaning things up, that could be getting ready for a sale, whatever that is. They're looking for that. One other thing, we always have lots to say about this, is I was also reflective in another, we'll say a company, because I think by now you probably know I do fractional COO work. And one of the companies I had been working with before, and I was helping create strategic plans. And the CEO was like, essentially, they were wanting to go for funding. And I created kind of a layout of what that would look like to give to potential investors. And there was an exit strategy in there. And the CEO flipped out. And the CEO was like, why are we going to have an exit strategy in there? Because businesses do that. You're building for something. You're either building to pass it down, you're building to sell it, you're building to grow it. Like there's different phases of it, but you have some exit strategy unless you're going to die with it. And so what's the purpose of building a business that's like that? And so it's really interesting because they had at that time not a CEO, and I'll leave it at that, but they didn't have that CEO mindset in that moment as well.
I remember that conversation. It
I
blew
know
me
you
away. I was
remember
like, I
that
didn't have an
conversation.
exit strategy. Like, what is
Oh,
this? I
man.
have an exit strategy for everything. I have an exit strategy for lunch dates. I don't know. I always have an exit
She
strategy.
does.
But, and so one thing I want to, yes to all of that, I want to add on a little bit about this, like what CEO mode actually looks like on a more like, tangible level, because I know saying that you're strategy driven at your big picture can kind of seem a bit too big picture for some people. So for us, what this looks like is things like ruthlessly prioritizing. We talked about it, or not everything is urgent, not everything is important, not everything needs you and your energy to focus on it. We were just talking with a client earlier today, has this litany of lists, like I have so much to do. And when we wrote everything down and we went through her huge list, there was really only one thing on this like 3-page list that she actually had to have her hands in. Everything else could have been handed off to somebody else. And she just was like mind blown. What do you mean? I'm like, this all can't be, it couldn't have been done that day, but she needed to build up her team in order to do those things because there was only one thing that actually needed her attention. And then it comes down to like delegation. So delegation without micromanaging. And we get this, a lot of people like, well, I don't want to be micromanaging, or I want to be buddy boss. I want to do all these things. Well, you have to still delegate, to the point where they're like, well, I don't want to delegate because it's just faster. And yeah, I hired this person and they're my new manager, but it's faster if I do it. So I'm just going to do it. I'm like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of delegating. Because if you're going to hire somebody and train them to learn the system, what's your ultimate goal? Is your ultimate goal to get it done faster in this exact moment? Or is it to delegate that away and teach someone how to do it and have it operate without you and to grow your business? What's your actual outcome? Is it better for you to do it yourself in 5 minutes? Or is it better for you to take the 15 minutes, teach someone else, and then never do it again? So understanding how delegation works. And then another CEO mode thing is building systems that run without you, building systems and processes. We talk all the time about SOPs. That has to be built, even if it's tedious, even if it feels like it's boring. Not everything in business is sexy and amazing. Sometimes it's boring. Also thinking in terms of ROI, not effort. Like what's going to actually give you the return on investment? Sometimes it does mean spending money and, going on a business retreat that it doesn't economically make sense, but the ROI is going to make sense. Investing in a mentor. I mean, Lynn just talked, she met with her mentor today, like investing in a mentor that doesn't always make sense until you really look at the ROI. Like, oh yeah, I guess it does make sense. So like it's all about like making those decisions that future you benefits from, maybe not necessarily immediate you.
Yeah.
Because a task checked off is immediately benefiting you. But doing the hard thing and spending time looking at the needle moving stuff is future beneficial.
I want to talk about a problem that we see a lot, like as a result of our clients being in employee mode versus CE mode. And you kind of touched this just for a second about growing the business. And so I want to talk about the clients or prospects that we attract and when we're in employee mode versus CEO mode. So when we're in employee mode, we typically have, as the owner, we typically are the everyman, everybody kind of person. We can help everybody, we can help anybody. And so our positioning is unclear, our boundaries are typically weak, and our messaging is very broad, which attracts everyone. You attract confusion, and you usually will attract demanding people. It's not necessarily bad clients, but it is because you're not in CEO mode and you're in employee mode. And we see this all the time, where people are attracting people. And that's one of the first things we go to analyze. If they're having a bunch of clients that they're complaining about, they're not really like their clients, they're having all these problems, et cetera, or people are expecting more. I mean, that could be in the setup, how they position themselves. But if you're in a CEO mindset, you are attracting a very different bucket of people that get it, that don't necessarily push back on that, understand the boundaries that you have laid because you're firm about it. CEO mode, you're setting the standard in which you operate. You're setting the standard in which people are attracted to you. You're setting the standard in which you play. And so there's less negotiation, where an employee will adapt and even give in to a lot more than what a CEO will look at, like the scope that they look through. It's really interesting because when we talk about the CEO and the employee mode or mindset, whatever you want to call it, is that a lot of times people don't see it from that side, like the people that they're attracting. A lot of times we talk about the internal structure first, and it is part of the internal structure, but you're going to continue to attract the wrong clients because you don't have the CEO lens on. And you need clients to have a business. Like, you have to have paying clients to have a business.
Yeah. People forget that. It's not like you can't, I mean, if you don't have a client, you don't have a business. Even if you have a great brand and a pretty website and, a email sequence that you've made up in your head, if you don't have clients, you don't have a business. So,
yeah.
And it does, I mean, we see this all the time because one of the things we coach around, not really coach, but consult around in the Badass Amplifier is on how to step into that CEO mode and how to really see your business from that strategic lens rather than being in just this constant hamster in a wheel, checking off the list, checking off the box. I did this, I did this. Reactive to everything, to the point where you don't even notice that you're being reactive. You're like, oh, well, I handed out my business cards. And that becomes like, that's in your mind, it becomes active. Like, oh, I actively handed out my business cards, but really that's reactive. It's waiting for someone to pick up your business card and call you and say, here, take my money, rather than showing value and really creating the need and understanding the problem and strategically going out after those leads. So it's one of the things that I think will transform your business the most when you make that full shift from employee mode into CEO mode, because suddenly all the things that you had to do, I must do all these things. Suddenly you're like, wow, I didn't really need to do any of those things. None of those things were on my level, and I don't have to do any of those in order to make money. I need to do this, this, and this because these are the needle movers. That's just noise in the background. And so the biggest shift you see in your business, that transformation, is when you really fully step into CEO mode, because that's a whole different role, and that's the role that makes money.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I have so many analogies in my mind, but I think we've definitely covered, if you are a business owner, if you're a founder, you need to question yourself. Am I in the CEO mode or an employee? So CEO questions would be, where are we going? What matters most now? What gets cut? Versus the employee question is, what do I need to do today? And like, if you can keep that in the back of your mind, that will help you reprogram your brain and your actions to be able to absolutely create a business that is going to be just a better business all around. I mean, when you have the CEO lens, it is absolutely going to change the dynamic of your business.
And I'm going to add on to that, because you just said it, like what moves your business forward if you have that mentality. And Lynn and I talk all the time about making that list the day before. What are my non-negotiables? So if you frame your non-negotiables around that question, what actually is going to move the business forward, that alone will shift the tasks that you do the next day. And when you wake up in the morning, instead of being like, I need to check my email and I need to see what ball got dropped, shift it into, I need to focus on what's moving the business forward before you do all the other crap, before you do the noise. Focus on that stuff. Even if you're a solopreneur, focus on that stuff first and then do the things.
Absolutely.
But that's the shift.
Absolutely. And again, I'm going to remind you, I openly admitted there are times where I've floated into employee mode. This is not I put on the suit and I'm always in that suit. For most. There are some that definitely have it down, but that is a small amount. So are you 80% of the time in CEO mode? Are you 50% of the time? Are you 40%? Like, where are you and how can you improve that? Because that's only going to improve your business and your life. Really, the more you can step into CEO mode, it will absolutely help you in your life side as well, your personal side, because you're just going to have different clarity, different energy, different outlook on things. So let us know below. What percentage do you feel you're staying in CEO mode over the last year of your business?
We love that. We'd love to hear from you. We want to know where you are in your business, what topics interest you. And honestly, if you are interested in stepping into CEO mode and you need a little bit of help, That's why we're here. Reach out to us, drop us a line on social media, drop into our website, or join the Badass Amplifier, and we can help you in real time on a call.
Absolutely. And don't forget to share this podcast with somebody that you know that really could use a nudge to get their CEO mode on and poppin' to make their business grow. And again, like Amanda said, give us a holla if you need some help. Till next time.
Get after it.
Thanks for tuning in. But remember, listening is not doing.
Take what you heard today and move.
Share the episode, leave us a review, and tag us when you take action.
Head over to thepursuitofbadassery.com and see how we're helping entrepreneurs get results without the fluff.
Until next time,
let's get after it.